It's Friday, December 16th, and welcome to Bible Study Live with Matt. Today we're going to talk about, is there really any reason to celebrate weakness? Well, this might be something you didn't expect. Hey, good morning, good morning. Listen, I'm jumping in a meeting here in 19 minutes, so today's Bible Study Live is going to be quick, but today we're going to take a look at 2 Corinthians chapter 12, and we're going to check out verses 7 through 10, because Paul talks about something that opened up a new perspective for me to wrestle with this morning, and I just want to share it with you for a few minutes. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and we're going to look at this in the message. Whole idea is to create some conversation without without condemnation. We're not going to agree on everything, but we're not going to fight about it. So let's wrestle with this together. Let's go. Okay, it says, because of the and I'm reading from the message, by the way. I think the paraphrase captures this beautifully today. So 2 Corinthians 12, verses 7 through 10. Because of the extravagance of those revelations, if you want to know what those are, go back and read the rest of 2 Corinthians 12. And so I wouldn't get a big head. I was given the gift of a handicap to keep me in constant touch with my limitations. Satan's angel did its best to get me down. What he did, in fact, was push me to my knees. No danger, then, of walking around high and mighty. At first, I didn't think of it as a gift. I begged God to remove it. 3 times I did that, and he told me, my grace is enough. It's all you need. My strength comes into its own in your weakness. Once I heard that, I was glad to let it happen. I quit focusing on the handicap and began appreciating the gift. It was a case of Christ's strength moving in on my weakness. Now I take limitations in stride, and with good cheer. These limitations that cut me down to size, abuse, accidents, opposition, bad breaks, I just let Christ take over. And so the weaker I get, the stronger I become. Man, Paul's words there are pretty darn powerful. And, it reminds me of something Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, or in the Beatitudes, actually. As the Message paraphrase says it, you're blessed when you're at the end of your rope, because that means there's less of you and more of God. I'm going to be honest. I had a rough go this week. We drove to Missouri to go to my daughter-in-law's, my stepdaughter, her wedding. And the day of the wedding, I got some food poisoning or the flu, something. I mean, just vomiting, sickness, horrible. Couldn't take 10 steps from the bathroom. It was bad. And it meant that I had to miss Jasmine's wedding, which was really, it was disappointing. And my wife went with my other stepdaughter, Caitlin, and my son-in-law, Nathan. And I'm so grateful that they were all there. And thankfully I felt well enough to at least attend part of the reception. But man, I was so frustrated, and I was so down. And on top of that, we're dealing with there's a certain person who just brings chaos intentionally into our world, and I get so frustrated. I have a little I'll show you on my laptop here. I have a little sticker reminder here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's 2 of them. And one of them is Rip from Yellowstone, and it says, "You need a ride to the train station." If you don't know what that means, watch the show. But when they got to take somebody out, that's what they tell them. They're going to give them a ride to the train station, and then they end up shooting them and throwing them off a cliff. And then the other sticker on my laptop is like a little from a meme with Jesus peeking out, saying, "I saw that." And I shared a post this morning saying the struggle is real, because see what Paul shared here in 2 Corinthians is, he asked God to take away the thing that was causing him pain, and God didn't. And that's got to be a hard thing to wrestle with when you're trying to serve God, and you're trying to be like, God, I want to serve you. I want to show that I love you. I want to do the right thing. I want to make the right choices. But can you remove these limitations from me? Can you remove these things that are causing me hardship? Can you remove these things, God, that are causing me pain, right? And that's what Paul was saying here. But Paul said that the pain, what it did, as the enemy tried to keep him down, he said what it did was drove him to his knees. It drove him to a place of surrender, to say, God, I can't do it by myself. Because if you leave it up to me, man, there's some people I want to give a ride to the train station, right? You leave it up to me, God. And I just can't handle this. But you can, right? And I love that Paul says that because of the position he was put in, he was in no danger of walking around high and mighty. Another translation, it says to keep him from being conceited. And he said, at first I didn't think of this as a gift, and I begged God to take it away 3 times. And what he heard back from God was, my grace is enough. It's all you need. My strength comes to its own in your weakness. And like I said, that reminds me of what Jesus said in the Beatitudes. You're blessed when you're at the end of the rope, because there's less of you and more of God. See, this is a good reminder to me that in these times that I get frustrated, when there's stuff that I can't control, there's actually a blessing hidden behind it. Because as the scriptures say, what the enemy means for evil, God turns to good. And so as there are things that are causing us pain, they're causing us frustration, they're causing us hardship, it gives us an opportunity to recognize that we can't control everything. We don't have the power to be in control of everything that happens, which causes us, as Paul reflects in 2 Corinthians 12, it causes us to, it almost forces us to rely on God and say, like, we have a choice. We can keep trying to rely on ourselves and keep going through the struggle and keep getting frustrated that we can't change the things we can't change. Or what it's revealed to me is in those moments, it gives me an opportunity to say, God, I can't do it, and I need to rely on you. You know what the cool thing is about God? He's always faithful. He's always going to do what will ultimately lead to the best outcome for us. And sometimes we're in the midst of a struggle because we need to be. Because sometimes I need to be reminded that I'm stronger than I think. And sometimes you need that reminder too. And sometimes I need to be reminded that when I think something's the worst possible thing ever, that maybe it really isn't. Sometimes, just sometimes, when we're in the midst of these struggles, you know, it's like Pastor Eddie said one time in one of his sermons, and I love this. He said, we're not thanking God for bad things that happen in our life. We're thanking God through. We're thanking God from within those bad things. See, God's worthy of our praise all the time, regardless of the situation, regardless of what's happening. God deserves our praise. He's worthy of it. Because God is loving us through it all. He's standing by us through it all. And Jesus laid his life down for us. And so God's never abandoned us. And so through these storms, as Paul says, you know, he said, you know, once God said to him, my grace is enough, my strength comes to its own in your weakness. Paul said, once I heard that, I was glad to let it happen. I quit focusing on the handicap and began appreciating the gift. It was a case of Christ's strength moving in my weakness. Friends, if like me, you've been dealing with some frustration. Hey, Debbie, I am at about, I said 90%, but I think I'm probably about 85%. I'm awake and I'm ready to run meetings all day, but I don't feel 100% yet. But thank you so much for asking. So as I get ready to wrap this up, I want to remind you, if you're going through a tough time, can I encourage you, look at the Message translation. Open up 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Look at verses 7 through 10. And look at what Paul says here. See, he stopped looking at the thorn that he said is the thorn in his side, the thorn he was experiencing. He stopped looking at it as a curse and started looking at it as a blessing, not because what was being done to him was good, but because what it did was open him up to the opportunity to depend on God to come through. It opened him up to being reminded that God's grace is enough, and that when Paul was at his weakest, God would be at his strongest for Paul. And that same truth is there for you and I today. See, if we're trusting God, if we're following God, if we are putting our hope and our faith in Jesus, and if we are in this relationship with the realization that God wants the best for us, then can I just tell you, Can I just tell you? We can't help but have a perspective shift. That, I think, is so powerful. Man, Corey, good to see you, Elder Corey House in the house. Love you, bro. Great to have you on, man. Debbie, thank you so much for that. And sometimes things that happen are bad and they suck. But in the midst of the suckiness, we have the opportunity to look for God. And I want to challenge those of you that maybe wrestle with that, like I do sometimes. In the midst of the challenge and the suckiness, we have an opportunity to look for God. But the question is, will we choose to? See, Paul could have said, God, why did you abandon me? God, why are you allowing me to go through this? And he probably did in his private time. He said he asked 3 times, God, take it away, take it away, take it away. So there's nothing wrong with asking God to remove the pain, the affliction, the person that's causing it. But if he doesn't, what are you going to do? If he doesn't, what are you going to do? Are you going to withhold your praise because God didn't live up to what you wanted? Or are you going to be a big enough, smart enough person to realize God doesn't always give you what you want, but God always loves you in spite of where you are? Are you going to choose to praise him in the storm? Or are you going to turn tail and run toward something that'll give you gratification? For those of you that jumped in at the end and missed it, I turned my camera around. I'll do it one more time here, but I got to turn off the blur effect so y'all can see it real quick, and then I got to wrap this up. So I got to turn off portrait mode here. Okay, let me show you this real quick. On my laptop, I have these 2 stickers. And if you've ever watched Yellowstone, I said this at the beginning, I don't want to spoil the show for you, but if they tell somebody, they're going to give them a ride to the train station, what it means is they're going to go shoot them in the head and throw them off a cliff. And let's just be honest. We have people in our lives sometimes we want to give a ride to the train station. And I don't come from necessarily a background that's always friendly and kind to those who try and cause strife in my family. So there are times that I can honestly say I've wanted to give folks a ride to the train station. But I also have that nifty sticker. I love that meme of Jesus peeking out going, I saw that. Thank you, white Jesus, who is actually Middle Eastern and looks probably nothing like any of the drawings we have. And it's just a good reminder that I think almost goes hand in hand with kind of what Paul shared, with the struggles and the bad situations. We have a choice: toward God, away from God. Trust God, trust ourselves. Bury ourselves in seeking out, wallowing in our sorrows, or looking for the moment to go, okay, God, I can't do this by myself. I'm just going to trust you. And the crazy thing is, as scary as it seems sometimes to go, okay, God, I'm going to trust you, and stepping into that, the reality is, if we just stop for a moment and pull ourselves outside of that and look in, it's like, wait a minute. Oh, I'm going to trust the most powerful being in the universe, the one that created everything, the one that gives the breath to my lungs and the light to the sky. I mean, I think his judgment and his ability is far beyond mine anyway. The sucky situation, if I have to trust God through it, then there is a blessing right there in itself. There you go. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you Monday morning.